Hi, this is Stan Bush.
Hi, this is Stephanie Calvert.
This is John Payne.
This is Jack Hughes.
Hey everyone, this is Britt Lightning from Vixen.
Hey everybody, this is Prescott Niles.
Hi, I'm Carrie Stevens.
Hello, I'm Kofi Baker.
You're listening to Play That Rock and Roll.
This is not a test. This is Play That Rock and Roll. I'm your host, Joe K, and today our guest is Stu Cook, the bass player for one of the greatest classic rock bands of all time, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Stu visited the show to promote a lost album of sorts from a band he was in during the late 80s and early 90s. It's called JACKDAWG. Stu was in JACKDAWG with two major players from the Doobie Brothers, Keith Knudson, who passed away in 2005, and John McFee, who still tours with the Doobies today. In fact, I just saw John play with them last month. These three guys had also played together in a country rock band called Southern Pacific all through the 80s. But by the end of the decade, they were looking to try something new. Stu, John, and Keith decided they would shed the country rock limitations of Southern Pacific and proceed as a trio called JACKDAWG. They recorded this album in 1990, but they were not able to release it when it was completed. Stu talks about why that was in this interview. It did eventually get put out on a CD in 2009, but that was a very limited release and it did not receive much attention. So John and Stu have partnered with Liberation Hall to get this collection of songs put out properly. And they've done so with new artwork, new liner notes, and this album is even getting a vinyl edition. In this conversation, we talk about how JACKDAWG got started, their songwriting process, why it took so long for the album to get a proper release, and how they came up with the name. Stu also tells the stories of a few of the tracks on the album, and he shares his memories of drummer Keith Knudson. We also discuss two major aspects of Stu's post-Creedence career. The first being his production work on Roky Erickson's 1980 album, The Evil One. If you're not familiar, Roky is a legendary figure in the psychedelic rock genre, and what Stu had to say about him was fascinating. And then we close the interview with Stu reflecting on his time playing in Creedence Clearwater Revisited, which is how I saw him in concert. I saw Creedence Revisited play at Summerfest in Milwaukee back in 2008, and it was one of the first shows that made me realize how much I enjoy seeing live music. So it was a real treat to talk to Stu about that run as well. JACKDAWG is available on CD, digital download, and vinyl, and you can get all of it on Amazon. And you can learn more about this album by checking out their page on the Liberation Hall website. Link is in the description below. And with that, here's my conversation with the bassist of Creedence Clearwater Revival, Southern Pacific, and JACKDAWG, Stu Cook. So, I want to start off by saying, I just saw your old JACKDAWG bandmate John with the Doobie Brothers this past month, and a couple of months before that, this summer, we did an album review series on this channel, and one of the ones I talked about was The Evil One from Roky. So, unintentionally, I've been getting myself into a JACKDAWG state of mind before I knew I was going to have you on the show, so it's really good to see you. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Well, I've been down at the Sunday market by the river and just been, I'm getting ready for a short trip to Paris. So I'm trying to get my affairs in order here. Yeah, it's been a good day. Very sunny, very warm. Nice fall day.
Right on. Great to hear. Okay, so JACKDAWG is made up of yourself, John McFee, and Keith Knudson, who were in the Doobie Brothers. I know the three of you were previously in a band called Southern Pacific, so let's go back to the origins. How did that group, Southern Pacific, originally get started, and what was it like playing with those guys all through the 80s?
The original lineup of Southern Pacific was McFee, Keith Knudson, James Burton, Glenn D. Harding on the keyboards from Elvis's band, and Jerry Sheff, bass player from Elvis's band.
Oh,
When
wow.
the album was done, those three guys didn't want to tour. And I had known McFee since his days in Clover, which was also a band from the Bay Area, Marin County, signed to Fantasy Records, along with Creedence,
Oh,
same
okay.
time. And we used to play gigs together with them, Sunday afternoon beach parties and things like that out at Muir Beach up in Marin County. Uh, so they were looking for a bass player. McFee threw my name into the hat. And I was living in Berkeley, flew down to LA, did the audition, uh, had no idea how it went. I mean, I felt good. I mean, I thought I'd put on my best chops and did my thing and schmoozed well afterwards. And funny story, we're walking through the Hollywood Burbank airport, and I'm dragging my luggage, and McPhee's carrying my guitar. He looks up at me and he says, "What's the matter with these people? Don't they know who we used to be?" Because at that time he was a Doobie alumni,
Yeah,
and of course, my CV. So I thought that stuck with me ever since. Whenever I want to think of something funny that happened to somebody that thinks they're a celebrity,
right.
I think of that line. Anyway, I was picked out of a handful of guys to be the bass player of Southern Pacific, and Kurt Howell from Crystal Gale's band replaced Glenn D. Hardin on the keyboards,
Okay.
and we were signed to Warner Brothers Nashville, and they were all excited about it. Jim Ed Norman, the company president, was the producer of the band, and the future couldn't have looked brighter, as they say, except that Nashville didn't like California cowboys.
Oh,
They
yeah.
didn't, they didn't really care for guys with earrings
Yeah.
or spurs on their cowboy boots. And they didn't really appreciate that we wrote our own songs. And, Nashville was based on songwriting.
Yeah.
In other words, all the country artists relied on a whole cadre of professional songwriters
Right.
signed to it's a music publishing city is what it really is. And so the writers would provide songs to everybody, Alabama, all the way down the line. Even though Alabama was sort of a band, they weren't really. They were
Right.
guys in the studio, and studio musicians and songwriters, other songwriters, and they were sold as a band, marketed as a band. So we never really got the support from Warner Brothers. There was a lot of dissension, I think, within the company that they didn't know what to do with us. I mean, we had a lot of friends in the company, but they just had a hard sell. We got a lot of radio airplay. We got on a lot of great tours with the Judds and Hank Williams Jr. and Oak Ridge Boys. We played with the top artists, country artists of our time, but we never could really sell a lot of product.
Right.
And so after 4 albums, the label cut us loose. And by then, John and I and Keith had become, really tight as band members, because Southern Pacific was really a fun band to be in, because everybody got to have their say, and what everybody agreed on was good was what we went with, and the stuff that wasn't, we gotta, thanks for your idea, keep trying.
Right.
There was no rules about who could, come up with an idea. You could, it was wide open, and everybody felt like they, could play a role in the band in terms of, what we recorded, how we recorded it, how fast the song was. The whole creative process was a great dynamic.
Excellent. So is that
And
why you wanted to work with John and Keith for JACKDAWG? Is that you wanted to kind of get away from the difficulty that the record label had put on you with Southern Pacific, and you were trying to change things up?
Well, we didn't, when the band was over, we thought it only really ended, in my mind, is because, for the time and effort put in over 5 years, there just wasn't enough payback. I mean, regardless of what the record company did, we probably could have got another deal with another label. We just decided that, really it wasn't in our heart to keep, we gave it a fair shot. 4 albums is a pretty good thing. We just weren't, country. I'm a rocker,
Yeah,
right? I
absolutely.
love I love good country music, but I'd rather play rock and roll. And so when we decided that we would try and do something, the three of us together after uh, Southern Pacific, we didn't have a name. We didn't. That was the last thing we came up with was a name.
Oh,
Uh, when the music was all recorded, we started looking around for a name. How do we label this for ourselves? But we just thought we'd enjoyed writing and playing together. We thought we'd just keep trying, with that formula, uh, wherever it took us. We didn't really have a rule or any guidelines about what kind of music we were going to do, and it just sort of we sit down to write and we come up with a title and kind of talk about what the idea that behind the title, and then we come up with a groove, try and find some come up with a chord change, and then some lyrics and a melody, and just then it became like a songwriter's project. And then when we had a song, then we'd put on our musicians hats and try and bring it to life to see what's the best key, what kind of a groove does this song speak to us with. So everything was just pretty much like, let's see what happens.
yeah. Well, I can definitely tell that, it goes back to your rock roots. It's definitely more rock and roll. There's very little country on it. And I have to say, I'm glad you mentioned the songwriting process. It sounds like it was a very collaborative effort where you guys were all working together. Can you shed some light on what that was like? I mean, did you guys, come up with lyrics for each other's songs, or how did you work together to come up with these original pieces?
Well, we did it in various combinations. Sometimes John and Keith wrote together. Sometimes John and I wrote together. Sometimes the three of us wrote together. Just depending on what was going on in our lives. For example, one song, "Bayou Rebel."
Yeah.
John and I wrote that, and John said, we really should try and mine some of that Creedence love.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree with him more. But how do you do a Creedence song without sounding like or right in that vein, without sounding too obvious? We were kind of sensitive to the fact that Creedence has been impossible to top by anybody.
Right.
So we that song, the inspiration for that song was a guitar tech in the Doobie Brothers, a young man from Alabama. I don't know. I know his name, but we'll just call him. His stage name was Hootie. Hey,
Excellent.
Hootie. You go, yeah, yeah, man. What you need? What y'all need? Anyway, he was from, and we said, well, and we got to, over beers and whatnot. We got to know each other, and he worked for Southern Pacific for a while, and then after Southern Pacific broke up, he went to work for the Doobie Brothers. Was the original groundwork for that relationship. And he'd say, "Well, I grew up down in the bayou. I'm a bayou boy." I've actually met a guy from the bayou after all these years,
Yeah.
and and got to know him, and got on the same wavelength with him, and he would tell us about what it was like, what the area actually geographically looked like and felt like. And so we got the idea for Bayou Rebel. The lyrics kind of just came from stuff he told us, where he lived and what it was like, to go out on a moonlit night and uh, little bayonets, Spanish forks. Those are all from his life experience. And so we just started, trying to inject our sensibilities into that. And we came up with Bayou Rebel. There's this one guitar lick, I think it's in the second verse, and talking about you can hear the rebel yell, and John goes, wah, wah, just rips a guitar like that. Just sounds like some guy screaming in the swamp.
You can hear the rebel yell.
It never fails to put a smile on my face every time I hear it. And it just kind of grew out of our friendship with this young man. I think just retired. He worked for the Doobies for decades after Southern Pacific. One day Keith came in and he said, "You guys ever heard of the Divinyls or the Divinyls?"
Oh, yeah, they're great.
And we said, yeah, I think they're an Australian band with a really hot female singer. And Keith says, "Yeah, Christine Amphlett, I think her name is." And he says, we got to write a song about this girl. She just knocked me out. I'm in love." And eventually we came up with The Girl from Oz.
Oh, man. That's about the Divinyls. That's amazing.
Yeah. The Men Who Would Be Kings was, we said, Lennon and McCartney wrote some songs that still don't make any sense to us. Can we write a song that doesn't make any sense, but that sense can be made from it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
it was a writer's workshop project.
right. Yes, that song is fun, but yeah, totally open to interpretation. And that's what makes so much of that stuff from, the 60s so much fun, is that, like, you can put your own interpretations into it. Oh, I like that a lot. Well,
yeah.
A couple of those are some of my favorites on the CD. Two others that I really enjoyed were Quicksand and Looking for Trouble. So we've talked about a couple highlights on this CD. When you guys were putting this together, were any of you thinking in terms of like what might work as a radio single or what you wanted to put out to represent the album? Oh no, didn't get to that point.
Not a thought about what we were going to do when we got done. It was all about, for us, it was the process and the joy of working together, continuing to work together, sort of like the phoenix rising out of the ashes of Southern Pacific.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep the spirit that we had in Southern Pacific, which was a highly collaborative effort. But like we said, like I said, we didn't want to have any boundaries or any hard rules about where it would take us. So no, we just sort of knew when we were done. We said, "Well, this seems like enough." We had toward the end of the process hooked up with a manager, a guy named Joe Gottlieb, who was the owner of a really famous San Fernando Valley recording studio, Sound.
Oh, okay.
Fleetwood Mac worked there. Just lots and lots of extremely successful artists recorded, mixed in his rooms, and he took us under his wing and was starting to shape us into something marketable, if you will, giving us subtle input on what you just suggested,
Yeah.
radio and more career focused points. And then suddenly he passed away.
Oh.
And then we were again, I think we had 16 songs, 15 are included in this reissue. I think we left the last one out. It was included as a bonus track when this originally came out on Sonic Pass, but it seemed like it wasn't quite up to, I think we had run our creative course with the first 15 when we finished with Cold Night for Alligators and Wild Night. We thought, well, this pretty much caps our effort here. but no, to answer your question, we didn't have any idea what would happen with this. And we finished in 81, maybe, I think it was, no, 91.
Yeah.
91, early 91, I think. I can't be sure anymore.
Yeah.
Pardon me. And it didn't come out the first time until 2009. That's how long it sat.
Oh.
I don't even think it was mixed until 2008. Final mixed. I mean, it just kind of sat. Keith went back to the Doobie Brothers, and I went back to whatever I was up to. And John knew the fellow from Sonic Past Music, who was kind enough to put it out on CD in 2009. But that was it. He just printed up a couple thousand and dropped it, and gave it to CD Baby, and that was pretty much all the effort that went into that. And it just sort of sat there. But every time John and I talk, and we don't talk super frequently, but when we do talk, it's like 2-3 hour conversations.
Yeah.
We'd always circle back to JACKDAWG, and we thought, it really never got the shot that we felt it should. And so the last time we were talking about this was in September of 24. I said, I'm going to try and do something with this. And so I got a hold of a music biz lawyer I knew in San Francisco, and he turned me on to Arnie Shore at Liberation Hall, who specializes in re-releases and albums by people who were in successful, had successful careers, at one level or another. And they have a real record company, with marketing and media and A&R and so on. And Arnie's just a gem of a guy. He's been in the record business all his life, and he knows the score. And I sent it to him, and to my surprise, although my great joy, he loved it. He said, "Yes, let's get together." And so here we are. With a release coming up in 2 weeks.
Right on. And it's totally all new packaging, new cover, new liner.
Yeah, with a real dog on the cover this time.
Yes. I got to show this up front because this is such a great design. Bloodshot eyes. He's playing the guitar. This is so much fun. Who came up with this album design?
Well, as long as you say you like it, it was me.
Oh, okay.
My wife and I have a little dog, a little Papillon.
Yeah.
And her picture is very small on the back cover. If you take a look down on the lower right.
Okay, right here. Let me see.
That's her name. That's her. Perita Rica is her name, which translates loosely from Spanish, "little rich bitch." And is she ever?
Yeah.
And so I started messing around with images of her, and came up with that cover. Then I gave it to McFee, and he polished it up.
Okay.
And came up with the typeset, the fonts, and the layout, and so on and so forth. But the dog with the cover was my effort toward this second chance for the JACKDAWGs.
When I first heard of the band, I thought to myself, "What's a JACKDAWG?" And then I saw the album cover, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, now I know."
The original name was JACKDAWG, which is a bird.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't know why. We were just looking for a name. What's in a name? Creedence Clearwater Revival, right? It's a mouthful. If nothing, if we had never had the success that followed the name, it would just be another mouthful, right? Something very hard to put on a marquee or a ticket, right? So we were looking for a name, and if you've ever been in a band or know anybody that's been in a band and had to pick a name, it's harder than naming your children.
Yeah.
Because immediately people are going to say, "Well, why'd you name it that? What's that mean?" Right? So you got to look for something that means nothing except to you, and then you keep that a secret. but somebody already had the name JACKDAW,
Oh,
DAW.
wow.
So McFee said, well, why don't we just call it JACKDAWG?
Okay.
And there you have it.
Mystery solved. I like it.
Yeah.
So, part of this, I have the CD copy, but this is getting like a nice fresh vinyl release as well. I'm always curious about, you saw the music industry go through so many changes. What do you think about this vinyl resurgence over the last 10, 15 years where everybody's going back to vinyl?
Well, it's a hell of a marketing idea.
Yeah.
However, they were able to pull it off, but uh, it has a sound. Okay, vinyl has a sound that I grew up on. Uh, when I first heard a CD, I thought, gee, that sounds awfully lifeless, soulless.
Yeah.
It's so clean,
Yeah.
almost too shiny, too much. Uh, Maybe it's not for rock and roll. Maybe it's sort of for some other kind of music it would be better suited for. But as a format, it eventually became widely adopted. As all of the formats did, right? We started with vinyl, then we went to 4-track, then 8-track, then cassette, then CD, then back to vinyl for a little bit, which is still carrying on. But now, almost, then we had digital downloads, of course.
Yep.
And now, when I look at my royalty statement, over 80% of it, over 80% of my residuals are streaming.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean, that is the one that I never saw coming. I mean, I saw how new technology could, supplant eventually, once it got, the ball rolling, enough momentum, could supplant the current technologies. That's sort of the way everything goes, right? But streaming is huge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody I know, that's how they listen to their music. I'm old fashioned. I like digital downloads. I still have an iPod, and I'm old fashioned for one of these.
When I haven't really I haven't taken the leap yet. So when I hear something that an artist, a project, an album or a single, whatever that I want, I go to iTunes and I buy it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I download it, and it's in my computer, it's on my phone, and I don't need internet or anything else to enjoy it.
And you
Now,
own
as
it,
I
and
understand,
there's no ads.
and the artist got paid for a sale, because streaming is, I mean, Creedence is in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
I don't know what they pay, 0.003 cents to stream.
Oh, right. Highway robbery.
But I mean, what's a new artist going to live on at 0.003 cents a stream? So I still support buying music.
Absolutely.
Personally, I don't know, and I'm not making, I'm not advocating that other people do it or don't do it. Do whatever suits you. But I'm old school in that sense that I like to own it. If I like it, I don't have a problem buying it.
Absolutely. Well said, and I couldn't agree more. One last thing I wanted to bring up about JACKDAWG is that your old bandmate Keith Knudson passed away sadly in 2005. So I have to say I think it's really cool that you're out here championing this album, really, in memory for him as well. Can you share your memories of that guy, perhaps off stage, like what he was like as a friend?
Well, besides being one of I mean, I played with three great drummers: Doug Clifford, Keith Knudson,
Yeah.
a guy named Ron Wixow, who now playing with Steve Miller, but originally played with Cher. He was in Foreigner for a while.
Right.
Just a great gentleman, an incredible drummer. But Keith was a solid hitting, great idea drummer, really good singer, a really good songwriter. He wrote a lot of the stuff for the he was a writer with in the Doobies when Michael McDonald was in the band.
Yep.
Off stage, he was just a pleasure to be around all the time. Always had a good attitude. always saw the bright side of things. Yeah, it was just a pleasure to know him and to work with him. When we were doing JACKDAWG, John lived up in Santa Barbara County and had a small recording studio in his tractor barn. That's where we did all the work. We did a lot of Southern Pacific recording there as well. But Keith and I lived in the San Fernando Valley, so we would ride up every Monday and drive back. We write and record all week and drive back to the valley to be with our families on the weekends. Did that for about 8 or 9 months. And Keith was a real good driver too, because as soon as I get in the car, I'd fall asleep.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I trusted him explicitly. Really funny guy, great storyteller. You know, he did a lot of things. I was envious of a lot of stuff he did in his life. He was a pilot. I was a pilot. We shared that experience together. He gave me all of his aviation instruction books when I started aviation training. So that was another bond we had.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Good guy. I miss him. And if there is a place where drummers go, I hope he can see what's going on.
Absolutely. I'm sure he would be thrilled to see that it finally got a release, and people have had a good reception to it. And also, I bet he would like the album artwork because that looks pretty cool. So one of the songs that I got to bring up from the CD is you guys did a cover of "Cold Night for Alligators," which you originally produced for Roky Erickson back in the early '80s. That song is an absolute trip, perfect for the Halloween season we got going on right now. When you look back on working with Roky in that era, he's a fascinating character in rock and roll, but I've heard he could be challenging. What are your memories of working with him in the studio?
Well, everything you've just said is pretty near 100% accurate. He's a rock and roll character, and at times he could be challenging. Rocky in his later years suffered from mental disabilities, some forms of psychosis. He'd taken a lot of psychedelics when he was in the 13th floor elevator, and I don't know. I didn't know him then, but they definitely had an effect on him. And when he was arrested for marijuana possession in Texas, 3 seeds was a felony. It still may be a felony in Texas.
Oh yeah, Texas. Yeah.
And instead of being sent to prison, his representation, his lawyers got him sent to Rusk mental hospital, where he I think fell deeper into the cycle of unwellness. Right. But he did have if he would take his medication, he was just as sharp and normal as you or I. But he didn't like it, and I understand why. It makes you feel, all of that kind of psychotropic stuff makes you feel not yourself. Your skin itches, whatever. There's a side effect, multiple side effects. And so working with him often was a challenge because his attention span was shortened dramatically. He was, I think it created a ADHD kind of reaction. So when he was on, he was really on, and when he wasn't, it was all his manager could do would be to help keep him, to help me keep him focused.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, we just have to say, that's, Brock, that's it. We'll start again tomorrow. Great work for today. Get some rest, get a meal.
Yep.
And we'll see you tomorrow. The first time we were going to do vocals, it was at a little studio in Austin, owned by the guy Willis Allen Ramsey. Now Willis made his money by writing the song Muskrat Love for
Oh,
the Captain and Tennille. And he had this little recording studio in Austin, down in the street somewhere, Third Street, Second Street, I forget where it was exactly. But I had to go down to Rusk Institution and get Rocky released for the day to go to work. And to do so, I had to put on a coat, a sport coat,
oh wow.
and tie. So when I went in, to get Rock out, and we call him the Roky. To get Roky out, we had to I had to go through a bit of a debriefing with the medical staff. And so while I'm waiting around for them to round Rocky up, all the other, not all of them, but many of the other inmates came up to me thinking I was a doctor, and they wanted me to get them out as well.
Oh my gosh.
So that was before we got to the studio. I've got all this going on in my head. But
did you ask
finally,
if he played guitar or something? Maybe there was some session
I don't
guys
know
he could
what.
use.
I think Rocky had a lot of people pretty well trained inside, to make life pretty easy for him.
Yeah.
For himself in there. The last recording sessions that we did for the album, before we started Mixdown, was in Marin County, San Anselmo, I think, a little recording studio called A Church, owned by a guy named Bill Steele, who I actually went to high school with, and had lost contact with for decades. I graduated high school in, I think, 61, and I ran into him again in the 80s. So, but Rocky was, by then he was like flying by the seat of his pants, and we only had 16 tracks, and once those tracks were filled up, just to make sure that we had what we needed on tape that we could work with, edit with later, I just ran a 2-track machine and just kept recording over and over and over, the big reels of 2-track, quarter-inch 2-track, and if we found something that he sang better, and we were out of track, we didn't have it on the multi-track, we'd have to wild sync it in. So a lot of times he sang the verses out of order that you hear on the record.
Okay.
So I had to rewrite the tunes in the order that you hear. I mean, I didn't write the lyrics,
Right.
but I rearranged so that the songs made sense from start to finish. He had a great band, the Aliens. Dwayne Aklaskin was a guitar player, a band leader, really good bass player. Steve Morgan, Fuzzy Furioso on drums, Bill Miller on auto harp, electric auto harp. Great band. Really complimented Rocky on the recordings that we did. We did 15 songs. 10 of them came out on a CBS UK release, and then 10 of them, the 5 alternates, the 5 that were left off, came out on the 415 release that Howie Klein did on his small label, San Francisco independent label, 415 Records. So there was 2 releases that encompassed those 15 songs. Then it's since been re-released multiple times, repackaged. I think the last one was by a company in the Pacific Northwest, Light in the Attic. And
Okay.
they did all 15 songs on one disc.
Yeah.
So finally they all came together in one spot. But yeah, working with him was a real honor, actually, because Rocky was one of the giants, one of the great rock and roll vocalists
Yeah.
of my era. The 13th Floor Elevator was like the first real psychedelic band that I ever saw at the ballrooms. I saw him at the Avalon a couple of times, and I never imagined that I'd be working with him. But I was friends with his manager, and he got us together, and it worked. The last time I saw Rocky was in Austin. he used to have this annual birthday party celebration called, it was Roky Erickson's Ice Cream Social. And I saw him perform there with another band that I produced called Explosives. And he told me that he really liked the work that we did together. And because we'd never really spoken in person about how it came out, but I was thrilled that he thought it was, good work. And he was really proud of it. And of course, I am to this day. I think it actually got a good Rolling Stone magazine review as well.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, 3.5 out of 4 stars or something, Wow, that's better than they didn't give Creedence that much.
That sounds about right. Well, that is a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I have to imagine Roky gave you some of the most unique experience for a producer of all time.
Oh my God. He had a nickname for me, which is stuck over the years. He called me Buzzy. Hey, Buzzy, what song we gonna do today? I say, well, Roky, what do you feel like singing? And why do you call me Buzzy? He says, because you're just always buzzing around. You're just buzzing around. I'm calling you Roky. Calling you Buzzy. That's your name. Okay, didn't want to argue with my man.
Yeah.
Whenever Roky came in, he was in a good mood. I said, let's get right to work.
Yep.
And get stuff done. And yeah, that album is. I still listen to it. I mean, I don't listen to much Creedence anymore, but after 25 years of playing with Cosmo and Creedence Revisited,
Yeah.
I think I got enough of the tunes in me. I mean, I can put myself to sleep listening to them in my head.
Yeah, you know those inside and out. Well, on that note, I'll close with this because this is how I've seen you in concert. I saw you with Creedence Revisited back in 2008 at Milwaukee's Summerfest. And that was the first year that I was seeing concerts regularly. And I remember that show. It sticks out in my mind as one of the early hard rockin' shows I ever saw. And it was so much fun that I think back on it as one of the shows that made me realize how much I love going to see concerts. I go to like 20 plus concerts every year, and it started in 2008, which was the summer I saw you guys. Wow. So I had a great time that night. I know that band obviously is retired now. So when you look back on that run as Creedence Revisited, what are the feelings that come to mind? What are your memories of that run? Because I'll say, just as a fan, awesome.
Well, that started as a lark. Cosmo and I were living together up in a little tiny town called Incline Village up at Lake Tahoe, just across the line into Nevada, the tax-free side and of the lake. And we didn't know what we wanted to do. We were jamming every day, but bass and drum jams get old real quick. And so we thought, well, let's see if we can find some guys that love the music, and see if we can't put together a band and play some private parties and stuff like that. And so I started circling around to find people that, and that's when I met up with Elliot Easton from the Cars.
Oh yeah.
And you saw Elliot playing in 2008. Maybe it wasn't it. Maybe you saw it with Tal. Tal
Morris. Okay, yeah. No, I know Elliot was.
Yeah, Elliot left in 2005 to go back to work with the New Cars. They were called.
Right. With Todd Rundgren.
But Elliot was a Creedence fan from day one, and he signed right up. And we got Steve Gunner, who was hanging out with Belinda Carlisle and a bunch of LA girls at the time to play keyboards with us. And so that band was we had to kind of go back and sort of relearn the Creedence stuff, but we didn't study it like it was like we want to be a cover band. We want to play it kind of like how we felt it now.
Yeah.
We had our own bona fides, as they say in New Jersey. So we felt we could play it pretty much any way we wanted to. People would recognize it, especially with the bass and drums.
Oh yeah.
Being the same characters. But the other guys, kept it real, and we had a great time. We toured the world multiple times with that band. 25-year career based on let's just play private parties. We had a double platinum album.
Yep. The live
Recollection. All these unforeseen wonderful things happened to us. What we really got to see is how much the world loved Creedence Clearwater Revival. No matter the language, we were huge in South America, huge in Europe, played in Vietnam, played in Hong Kong, played in Australia, we played an acoustic set for the servicemen at the demilitarized zone in Korea.
Whoa.
We played in Tokyo. We had a wonderful, wonderful career thanks to Creedence fans. We tried every show. We went out there. We had to prove ourselves over and over again that we weren't just shucking and jiving with this. We meant it, every note, and to celebrate and honor the original band.
Yep.
And we were able to convey that everywhere we went. So when Doug and I retired 2 weeks before the pandemic.
Good time.
Boy, talk about timing.
Yeah.
That's when the complete industry disappeared. We thought, this is 25 years, really, really well spent, and no regrets whatsoever. None.
Wonderful to hear. Absolutely killer run. I'm so glad I got a chance to see you guys play. How's Doug doing? Is he all right?
Well, Doug's got some health issues. We're both 80 years old, and glad to make it this far. Believe me, Dan Keaton just passed yesterday, younger than me. John Lodge from the Moody Blues just died last week. Guys, gals, from our generation are, we're losing people. I'm very fortunate to be here today talking with you. I've got good health, and I exercise and get my rest and avoid too much fun, as it were.
Right.
And hope to have, got a great family life, and great kids, great grandkids, and hope to be around for many more moons, but one never knows,
Yep. Well, for that, you look great. I wouldn't have guessed 80 at all, so that you got that going for you. And I will say that's a real nice note to close out on. I just want to say thank you so much for making some time to talk with me today. I'm really glad you're out there championing this CD because I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of great songs in this collection. And it has been an absolute honor being able to talk with you today, Stu. Thanks for coming by.
Well, Joe, it's been my pleasure. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you can edit this up to make some sense of it for your listeners. Good luck.
That's what I do.
I'm headed back to Rusk right now.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for listening. There's no shortage of great content out there, so you choosing to spend some time listening to this show means quite a lot. If you're so inclined, please give this podcast a 5-star rating and a positive review wherever you get your podcasts. And share our links wherever you can. Or mention this show to anyone you know looking for a podcast recommendation. All of this helps us out a great deal, and I appreciate it. You can connect with us on social media too. We are at Play That Podcast on Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, and even TikTok. Or we are at Play That Rock and Roll on YouTube and Instagram. Please post a comment and say hello. Finally, Play That Rock and Roll is a proud member of the Pantheon podcast community. So if you're looking for more music podcasts beyond this one, trust me, start with Pantheon. You won't be disappointed. Otherwise, I appreciate any and all efforts you take to support us here at Play That Rock and Roll. Be sure to join us next time for more great music and stories from the world of classic rock.